Hey, hey.
Oh,
All right.
Look at that.
It is
Little tinder mug from
9:04.
Holly Lewis.
9:04, February 16th, 2022. Neil Daly's with us. Charles Green, Brendan, Sandra.
Hey,
hi.
how
So,
the devil are you?
Yeah, right on, everybody. This is my first time in a new time zone. I have no
Yeah.
idea
Yes.
what day it is, let alone what time it is.
yeah, it's
You're
9
like
o'clock
right
and that's 6.
Yeah,
You know?
right.
Yeah, Neil, you're in another world, dude.
I'm in a world of hurt, is what I'm in.
No, Tony, he's a really great guitar builder, and he's a whole lot closer to us now, man.
This is true. This
That's
is
how I
true.
look at it, brother.
Yep, I'm.
You told me in a private message that he just wanted to be closer to Green Bay, and God bless him.
Oh my God! Seriously.
Oh, that was brutal. That was brutal.
I'm just making it up.
No, but I'm in Chicago, and I've got a whole new workspace and a whole new way to crank out and
Awesome.
basically up the number of builds and decrease the time that it takes to do it. And so I'm centrally located, so I can get them to everybody quicker. So there it is. I just
Looks
have
like
to
guitar heaven, Neil.
It is. It really is. It really
Positives
is.
all around, buddy.
I'm loving this new place. So
Cool.
it works.
Awesome.
So.
Right
That is
on.
great. It's good to see all you guys.
Next level.
You too,
Next
man.
Good
level.
to see all of you.
Cool.
Yeah.
You dudes. My favorite dudes.
Neil, it's nice to see you, dude. I know you've been moving here. It must be a culture shock in a new place in a new world, and my
It is.
goodness.
It was. Yeah. I mean, we can get into this another time. But the funny thing was, I'll give you a really quick story about this. So, and hopefully it's a blessing in disguise. But we had ordered one of those U boxes that is gonna we would load up the U box and then ship it to our destination. And Alexia came up with the measurements for what she thought was the U box, and she came up with a 12 by 8 space. So we taped off an area in our garage and started loading furniture and boxes and all the stuff in there so we could see how much room we have to load up the box when it came. And then the box showed up Monday of last week, just over a week ago. And the box showed up, and the box was 6 by 10, significantly smaller than what she told me it was going to be. So after crunching some numbers and trying to figure out, do we want to pay for the upgrade and how long would that take and all this stuff and how much extra would that cost, we ended up realizing, you know what, let's travel light, let's be liquid, let's just get rid of stuff, and then we'll use the money we would have spent to buy a bigger box to get new stuff here. So in the grand scheme of things, it's going to end up being a great decision, and we're excited about it. But in the short run, we have absolutely no furniture. we really travel. Aside from the basics that are in that box that's somewhere going across the country right now, almost everything we own was in our cars. That's it. So it's a little bit of a nerve wracking to go through this process. But like I said, it's all going to work out for the best. We're excited to be here and be closer to family and have a better opportunity for her job and for mine as well, for the guitars and everything. So
Yeah.
So
good, Neil. Right on. It's nice to see you, bro.
Thank you, man. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be back.
So let's recognize these fine folks in the chat. Sandra,
Cheeks is in there. The lovely Holly Lewis and Amanda Coombs are joining us. Good to see
Holly. Hi, Amanda.
Hello.
Andrew from the 5150 show is with us.
Andrew.
Charles
Simon.
popping in. I just lost her. Charles Taylor Green, there she is.
Hey,
Christopher Lanzawa. Polly Walnuts, hello. Tim Thomas.
Yes, Polly. What's up?
Adam Roach, looking forward to using his guitar tomorrow night. Ed, of course, as always, Dana, New Jersey is with us as always, and we will say hello to those popping in as we go along. I'm excited about today's show.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Nice to see everybody. Yeah.
So bring the bell, do the thing, you know.
Dang.
Later, Dan.
Hope things are going well with all of you. Hope your week's going well.
Busy.
We do this every Wednesday. We talk Van Halen right here midweek every Wednesday. We got a special guest tonight, a very old friend
Hi,
of
Brian. If
the
you're watching,
channel.
man.
A very exciting time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very exciting time. He's got a new book
Let's get him in.
out. Yes, and we are always happy to see him again. Let's go ahead and bring him in.
Bring him in.
Kids, the legendary rock journalist himself, Mr. Steve Rosen.
Yeah.
Steve, you rock.
Hey
Buddy.
guys,
Right on,
how are
buddy.
you?
How cool
Hello.
is it?
Steve,
you
how
for
you
that.
doing, man?
I'm doing really good, man. You know, you hit it, Tony, when you said this is an exciting time. It's an exciting time for me. You know, in that interim period where I sat down and I spent all those months writing the book, and then I finished the book, and now that span of time, you know, until that book gets in the hands of all these wonderful people out here. So it's pretty amazing. It's a little surreal, to be honest, because I know, Tony, you said it, you know, going back to when we were, you know, first doing the guitar pick thing, and, you know, we first started communicating, and I don't know, you knew that I knew Ed or something, and I'd mentioned I was thinking about a book or something. You know, this is going back many years ago. And you were always there to say, man, you got to write the book. We need that book, you know. And, you know, I was just unsure. I just really didn't know what was going to happen. And, you know, finally just kind of sat down, and slowly it just kind of came together. But anyway, yeah, man,
Yeah, we're
it's
excited
an
about it.
amazing time for me. Cool, man. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, we've been talking about this. We all knew about the when Ed and you were to write the book before, but you know, when I guess, and this is probably going back to May or June before Ed passed, when you got hot and heavy into writing this book. Um, and I went back and looked, and the June July stuff, you were already writing because you were not on every episode of Show Me Your Pick at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you could be right, Tony. I mean, honestly, my memory for this stuff is really bad. All these people out here in this chat room know my Guitar World stuff, and you know, all those stories better than I do, which I love. I love when somebody comes back and says, "Hey, I read that story in Guitar World, and you wrote this and that." And I mean, that stuff just means a lot to me. And I mean, I may have started thinking about this in May or June. That would have been 2020. Um, I do remember basically the first day that I really started writing in earnest, because it was my birthday, August 24th. I thought that was an auspicious day to begin. And yeah, man, you know, again, when I sat down, I honestly didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I knew I was writing about Edward and those things, but, you know, was it a book? Somewhere in there, it was. I was hoping it was going to be a book, but beyond that, it was maybe just putting down some ideas, and, you know, maybe just wanting to write some notes to myself. And then over the course of time, you're right, and there's a chapter, and there's another chapter, and, you know, what do I write for an intro? And then, you know, at the end of 14 months, there's a book there. So I had to kind of sneak up on it, you know. Sometimes I had to run and retreat, but yeah, man.
Did you set a schedule for yourself, or did you just, when the mood hit, you wrote, or did you write a certain amount a day?
That's a very good question, Brendan. And before we go on, I need to say to everybody out there, Brendan graciously sent me one of his cigar box amps. If I was in the other room, I'd show you guys, which I have up on a place of honor. And it was just an extraordinarily generous thing to do. He didn't have to do that. And I just want everybody to know that and check out his stuff. The stuff's freaking amazing, and I've been messing around with it. I sound like Edward Van Halen through it, and no, not really, but I mean, it makes a bad guitar player sound much better. So, in answer to your question, Brendan, the schedule sort of happened, and I may have told this story before, but it's true. And in fact, the reason for me writing this book, just walked away on his 4 paws there just a minute ago. He was sleeping in the back of my chair here. My cat, for some reason, man, would wake up at insane hours. It'd be like midnight, then it'd be 1 o'clock, and then 2 o'clock. And he'd want to be fed, even though he'd eaten, 18 times that day. He forgets that he eats or something. I don't know. So I'd get up, and I'd have to, my kitchen where I used to live is like downstairs. So I have to like go down the stairs and, give him some cat food. Then I come back upstairs and I'd fall back into bed, and I was just kind of, wired. It's the middle of the night and it's like, oh man, I can't sleep. I remember just one day, and it was on my birthday, and I don't know if that was a coincidence or I knew it was my birthday, but I got up and went over into the computer room and just started hacking away. And that became the schedule. The cat was my feline alarm clock.
Nice.
And, man, I'd wake up, 2 or 3 midnight, and I'd literally write for about 4 or 5 or 6 hours till it got light. And then I'd kind of fall back into bed for a couple hours and wake up and meet the day. So
cool.
Luckily, I don't have to share any of the profits with my cat, but he's the reason I wrote this thing,
You do inadvertently.
Yeah.
You buy the cat food, treats, and stuff. So
That's true.
you're sharing it.
Exactly.
Steve,
Right.
Steve, if you don't mind, I've got a 2-part question for you, and you began talking a little bit about it, and I want to, especially for our listeners. Number one, the first part being, did you have a narrative in mind that you wanted to tell, or did you just revisit the interviews and the stories and let that kind of inform the narrative? And then second part of the question is, obviously you began this journey of writing the book prior to Eddie passing. And so the second part of the question is, did that narrative happen to change then after finding out the unfortunate news that he passed, or were you kind of committed to just letting the stories be the stories?
Those were excellent questions, and I have to give myself notes to remember everything you asked.
I'm sorry. That was kind of long-winded.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's like those politicians' questions. First tell us about the Russian thing, and the politician forgets all 3 of the questions except the first one. When I first began writing, like I said, I didn't really know where it was going. Then it started taking a little bit of shape, and I thought, well, this is going to be the book that didn't happen back in '85.
Okay.
And then the more I wrote, I realized it can't possibly be that book. That was an entirely different book.
I love that.
Obviously, Edward was still
kind of
here.
flesh out on its own. I love that.
Yeah. So coming to that realization was really kind of an epiphany. I thought, all right, these are 2 separate books. I don't have to try to recreate that book. And what was I thinking back then? And, all of that stuff. So when I realized that was a breakthrough for me. That book back in '85 was pretty much going to be a narrative in Edward's voice. Mm-hmm. So basically, it was going to be Ed talking. I was going to add some connecting tissue, like, in 1984, Van Halen recorded the 1984 record, and I was up at Edward's house, and he told me this, and then that, And then I'd also done interviews with, which is what I really spent my time doing for about 4 years, while waiting for Ed to kind of sit down with me for sort of a final book run through interview series of questions, which never happened, unfortunately. But so, I'd interviewed, his friends and, early band members and guys who were promoting the shows in, out in Pasadena, the rest of the guys in the band. So that's kind of what that book was going to be. So when I realized that this book wouldn't be that, then I thought, well, okay, what is this book? And it was going to be hard for me to sort of write a book kind of like these other books that are out there, kind of like, they talk about the history and then they'll fill it in with the interviews that they did. And I just couldn't do that, or I didn't want to do that. They kind of already been done. So I just started writing in first person. I thought, I can do that. I know what I sound like. I can write with me. So it was just me, this first person narrative, and it just kind of seemed to come out.
Hey, Steve, that's your writing style anyway, man. That's your writing style.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
I suppose, one of the things they tell you in English 101, which I flunked in UCLA, and you'll read that story in the book, and that's fucking hilarious, but, is never to use the pronoun I in a story, right? Nobody cares. Like when you do reviews, and, oh yeah, I went and saw Richie Blackmore. Nobody cares. Nobody cares that you saw them, Rosen. Tell it, you know what I mean? So you break all the rules in that aspect. But, once I found that voice, so to speak, I was able to be pretty creative with it. And because it was me and it was in my head and what I was thinking, I could really be incredibly honest with it. And maybe in some ways even more honest than I could have been with that book back in the day. I mean, he was a remarkable guy. We all know about that. And he had his dark side, and I mean, I talk about that. And I was only able to do that because it is me, and it was just me, what I saw, what I observed. And I put caveats in there. Hey man, I could be totally wrong. And maybe I'm not saying this correctly, but that's what I saw over the course of many years. Your second question, after Edward passed, honestly, no, I didn't. What I did think about was, do I honestly, because that was about 2 months, what was October 6th, and I began August 24th, so it was a little over a month and a week or whatever. I did think about putting the book away. I thought, I don't want to write this now. I can't do this. And then I don't know, that feeling kind of went away, and I just kept writing. Again, as much for myself as anything else.
Sure.
And then, I mean, without sounding, I don't know, flowery, but I mean, I realized there were some people out there who maybe wanted to read what I had to say. And I thought, I should write this book. I think there's some worthwhile things for me to say. And that is one thing I wanted to say, is that I did write the book. I did start the book before Edward's passing. Not that anyone is going to have those thoughts, but
no, he absolutely. We all knew that here on this channel.
Sure.
Doing Show Me Your Pick before. We all knew that.
Yeah, Steve, I've been expecting this book out of you for a decade. I've been saying it.
Thanks, man.
For a decade.
Yeah, well, it's only taken. It's only been really since '85. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Have a little patience, Charles.
Yeah.
Steve, let me ask you. So, you've said that you don't listen back to your interviews or read. So, when you knew that this book was going to be a book, did you revisit a lot of the old audio, etc.? Because that, the interviews are one thing, but the audio is another.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. I went back and pulled every cassette interview I'd ever done with Edward, as well as found every, printed version of the interviews. And that was not an easy thing to do. I always prided myself on being a pretty good, kind of documentarian and labeling things and labeling cassettes. Well, man, I'd come on a cassette and it would say Edward Van Halen. I'm going, what the fuck? Where does this fit in, And it was like, I mean, literally, I was like a detective. So we go and we'd be talking and I'm going, I don't know when I did this. I don't know when I did this. I don't know.
You and Eddie have a
Then
lot
he'd
in
mention,
common.
yeah, exactly. And then he'd say, oh yeah, man, 3 weeks ago when the Women and Children first album came out, I go,
Yes.
there it is. Exactly. So literally, I was scrambling for these crumbs. And some of these interviews, I placed them where I thought they came from, and I could have been, I could have been a month off, could have been 6 months off, could have been a year off, because I just didn't know. There was nothing in there to tell me when that interview took place. And Edward's over at the house, and we're just bullshitting about something, and it's like, I don't have a clue. So I would kind of insert it where it kind of made sense. But yes, man, I listened to every single word of every interview I ever did with Edward. And man, some of this stuff, like I said, like you said, Tony, I never listen back to my interviews and I never read this stuff. I just can't do it. It's just some weird thing. It's like I've done that and it's out there in the world, and
Well,
I have nothing to do with it anymore.
we've talked about this book a couple of times in live streams on this channel in the past year, and you joined us on our anniversary show back in June, and
Mhm.
we talked somewhat about the book. And John Mancuda was also on, and he said something that was important, that um, it's history. Don't lose history. Um,
Well,
so
I'm sorry, Tony, go ahead.
this book for us and yourself. It's important.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I mean, it's hard to deal with something like that. I mean, do I want to feel like I've been a part of Edward's history or music journalism? That was important to me. I mean, I wanted to believe that I had some seat at this table amongst all these other writers and stuff. When people recite a line from an interview, and I remember, they were saying, I go, yeah, I remember that. That was cool. But to them, it has a much deeper meaning, and they see these things in there that I never saw, that I had no idea that people reading that interview were going to be touched by it in that way. I mean, I had no sense of that. And when they tell me those things, like I said earlier, it's just astonishing to me. I mean, I love those moments. On Johnny Bean's show, there's one little bit in an interview, and I think maybe some of you guys have heard it. I think it was an interview from '78 that I had up on my YouTube channel. And Ed is over at the house, my house, for the first time, and he's playing my Strat, and he just makes like this innocuous, what I thought was an innocuous statement, even though I addressed it a little bit in the book. Hey man, can I take the knob off? And Johnny Bean and Rob and the guys were going, oh my God, he's taking the knob off, and which knob was he taking off? And I thought, oh my God, this is so important to those guys.
Yes,
And it fills in these little holes for them. I mean, it's just fantastic for me. So if my book can do that, and honestly, I think it will. I think there's some holes. I think there's some things that you're going to read about Edward and find out about him that I don't think you knew before. And that, yeah, it does move you and touch you. I mean, Yeah,
I think you
I'm
just
hoping
kind of
that's what
summed up
happens.
I think you just summed up why it's important, and the things that I don't mean to make it sound like in your mind anything that you did with Ed was commonplace. I don't mean to make it sound like that at all. But to everybody else, this is as close as they'll ever get to experiencing some of the things that you experienced on a day-to-day basis. Waking up in the middle of the night to a phone call from Ed at 3 o'clock in the morning, we'll never get. You
Right.
did. And that type of stuff, I think that is important because it goes far beyond any published interview that was in a guitar magazine. That's why I think
Right.
your book, I
Right.
mean, I appreciate your humility, but you got to know that what you did is extraordinary, and putting this out there is important to a whole lot of people, including us.
Yeah.
And if I can elaborate on that a little bit, Neil, I noticed in the chat over the last 10, 15 minutes, there's been a couple of people, 5150 show, Ed Dubril, they've been making comments, and they're sort of along the same lines. And what it is they're making a comparison, number one, between journalists that you can trust, the words that are coming out of their mouth, why they can trust the words. One of the main reasons is because you did real time with Eddie.
Yeah.
And you can tell when I got an opportunity to see the first 3 paragraphs of your book. The first 3 paragraphs.
Oh, on
right?
on
Let
the
me tell you what.
yeah,
Say I'm chomping at the
first 3
bits,
paragraphs
Steve, is an understatement.
that's
It is your writing style, quintessential Steve Rosen. Let me just say that. So everybody in the
really?
chat get excited because you're going to get what you want. Number 2.
Oh, that's great, man.
Number
that is
2.
so cool. You know,
there was a period of time for the better part of a decade, from 78, 2 years before I was in Hollywood, and then all the years I was in Hollywood working in the clubs, and a couple of years after that, where your name, even though people who don't know you, your accolades they go from your elbow to the floor, but your association with Eddie Van Halen were synonymous, your name and his. In other words, when I was in LA, it didn't matter what club I was in. If I heard your name, Eddie's name was right along with it, because you were either waiting for him to show up for you, or he was waiting for you to show up, or one way or the other. And that was just something that you couldn't ignore. You could not ignore it. And it shows. And that's why we want this book. And that's why we love you. And that's why we love Ed. And it's just, it's priceless, bro. It's absolutely priceless.
Yeah. Ed wants to know in the chat if his book is going to be signed, Steve.
Absolutely. All you have to do is add another $75 to the order. I'm kidding.
That is so Van Halen, bro.
I'm kidding. It's $100, but
No,
really,
$51.50.
Seriously. Yeah, exactly. I'll happily sign anybody's book if you just put a little note in there, that you want it signed.
Let's talk about this 1 second while it's being mentioned. All right, so kids, this book is $35, $12 shipping, $47. There's a PayPal address. And
so I'm sorry, Tony. So that's for the US. That's for Americanos, okay?
Yep.
International, the book is $35 also, but the shipping is $60, which includes tracking with the post office. It's $95 total to international, the same address there. And when you're ordering, do not forget to leave your address in the notes section of your
Can I ask
receipt.
a crazy question? Let's say I had a couple of copies and I wanted to send one to a friend in Canada. Do I still have to pay that same kind of a shipping thing? Or not that I'm just saying, if I want to give it as a gift.
No, I understand. You mean you wanted 2 copies, but you want one sent to Canada?
Well, no, I'm just saying if I ordered a couple of copies and I wanted to give them as gifts, literally, I'll play the devil's advocate. Let's say that this show wanted to send a couple of copies as gifts for trivia. Maybe we decided to do that in the future. Then let's say the people live in Canada, they lived in wherever. what would it cost to send a book to them? I'm just curious.
I'm sorry, to Canada?
Mm-hmm.
Canada specifically, Canada is $24.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
Does that answer your question?
is just, it's just the same. I got you. I got you. All righty.
Yeah.
You know, and I did want to say, the book is, I don't have the book in my hand. I'm having the book printed. That's why, you know, when is the book going to be out? I'm hoping by the end of April. It could be later. It takes like a printer, once everything is in his hands, it can take like 6, 7, or 8 weeks. And then the books need to be delivered to me. They're coming from back east. So I'm hoping to have everything to the printer by the end of this month. And I'm hoping by the end of April, I'll have them and I'll ship them out. The reason that shipping is a little expensive is, you know, the book is, again, I say between 400 and 500 pages because I don't know. I know that in my text, in my Word doc, it was 480 pages without the photos. So the book is going to be like, you know, one of those thick books that'll probably weigh 3 or 4 pounds. And to ship that stuff to Europe, man, you know, Canada is not so bad. Obviously, Canada is a little closer, but you know, Japan, you know, stuff. Australia's got this COVID thing going on that you can't send, at least from the US, you can't send stuff to them first class anymore. It's got to be like a priority mail, which is like $75. So that's where that comes from. Charles, I wanted to go back to your comment just real quickly here. You had said that, yeah, people read this, and this is like maybe the closest they'll ever get to Edward. In the book, which I don't think anybody else has ever done, because again, I look. I mean, Brad Tolinsky's book was a fantastic book. Paul Brannigan's book. I mean, those guys are fantastic writers, you know. But they were different. You know, they would interview Ed for an hour and then fly back to New York or fly back home and come interview him again. So I mean. I mean, how much did they know about Edward? You know, getting past the interview stuff. I mean, I don't know. What I'm trying to say is, I tried to take those moments. I was sitting there with Ed, and he was showing me the guitar, and I tried to explain in words on the page what that felt like. So you may not have been there with me with Edward, but this, I swear to you, will be as close as you can ever get.
I got to tell you, Steve,
that was hard.
That first
that
three
was a
paragraphs,
hard thing to do, you know.
That first 3 paragraphs are, you have me. Hook, line, and sinker, bro.
Well, that's great, man. That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. I mean, I tried to do that, and that's why, you know, the book was, you know, 282,000 words long. I you know, there were just so many these moments, and you know, what's it like sitting in his
Boulevard, Steve? You started at the Whiskey a Go-Go. You talk about the Rainbow Club in the first 3 paragraphs. Neil, this is our book, brother.
That's our jam. That's our jam.
This is our book, guy.
Well, I hope so, guys. I told you before that this is like an exciting time for me. It's a little bit out of body having this kind of response to my writing. Because, you know, you sit there and you write honestly. Is writing a lonely business? I think it's a fucking lonely business. Because you sit there and you write and it gets done, you send it to the editor and it gets printed in a magazine and you think, God, I hope people read it and they like it, you know, but you never know. Which is why I always made myself accessible to readers in Guitar World. I put my address out there and had people write to me, and I wrote back to everybody. And there's even some people that have said, hey, man, you wrote to me when I wrote to you when you wrote the Guitar World article, and thank you. And I still have your postcard. I mean, I love that stuff. Anyway, man, I think you'll be as close to Edward as you've ever been after you read the book. That's what I can say to you.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it's a fair statement. Absolutely.
Yeah, we
Cool.
can't wait. I've been asking Steve questions about Eddie Van Halen for a long time, and having all the back issues that we know those interviews. But this is going to be a real treat, Steve.
Absolutely.
Cannot
Thanks, man.
wait.
I'm sorry, Tony. I also wanted to say I go back and I look at some of those interviews that you guys might know, those Guitar World interviews specifically, and there was some bits that weren't in the original interviews, stuff that I wouldn't have put in or I couldn't put in.
Yeah.
So there's that stuff, and then I've sort of become sort of a narrator about, this is what you didn't read. In the book, I sort of become two people. I'm the observer. I'm that guy sitting there on the couch with Edward, and I'm the narrator. I'm sort of this omniscient kind of guy looking down at Steve, talking to Edward, and this is what he's saying. It was a little challenging,
but
I even confused myself doing it, but so jumping back to, I'm listening to an interview, but I'm trying to describe what it is I was feeling in the actual interview, in the physical moment. But this is what's on tape, but I think it worked. I think it's different than I've never read anything like it.
yeah.
And I read, like, how you're supposed to write, like the format for autobiography, and it's all supposed to take place in the present. And if it takes place in the past, I don't know, man. But it's like, fuck it. So mine takes place in the past, in the present. Some of it's in the future,
You broke the rules,
But,
just like Van Halen, Steve. Not a problem. buddy.
Exactly. Well,
Good point.
one
Very
last comment, then I'll let you guys get in a word. What I try to do, and I talk about it, I try to put down on the page in words what Edward was as a musician, what his guitar sounded like in my front room when he was playing through my Marshall with the Les Paul he just brought over. So I was trying to capture in words on a page what a remarkable human being he was, and his music. I was trying to write an audio book in words.
Yeah.
So a little confusing maybe, but yeah, that's what I tried to do. So, capture the essence of this guy in words. And that was a hard thing to do. In an interview, it's easy. It's just it's a verbatim transcript, right?
Yeah.
I could have written a book. I could have put all my interviews up there, stuff you guys haven't read, and that would have been cool. But I don't think it would have been nearly as deep as this one. So,
Steve, when going back in my mind to a couple of Octobers ago, when we got that news, when I first heard that news on the radio driving, you were the first one who I called, and I'm, Steve, am I hearing this right? And
oh yeah, I remember that.
you said, I'm afraid so. But so we had a Show Me Your Pick episode, Deep Purple, on tap for a couple days later that weekend. And it ended up not being a Deep Purple episode for the obvious. And during that episode, you had made a Facebook post, Steve, probably the day before that show aired, and Sandra read that on the show that night, and that was October the 10th, couple of days after Ed had passed, and we found that it just so well written and so moving. Let's I'll tell you what, let's do. Let's change this. Let's watch that, Steve, shall we?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
All right. So let me find this. All right. right, so this is from October the 10th. And let me know if you can hear this all right. This is October the 10th, and this is her reading a post that Steve had just wrote. Let's play this.
This is per Steve Rosen via Facebook. I never post on Facebook. Oh, and a quote. I never post on Facebook. I thought I'd leave this one. I'm not sure exactly what to write about Edward. I can tell you how I feel, like my heart is devouring itself. I haven't spoken to Edward for years, but that doesn't make his loss any less devastating. I did call him a few months ago and left a message on his voicemail, but I never heard back from him. Now I never will. I'm not going to tell you how he changed the very vocabulary of rock guitars, single-handedly revolutionized the crafting of custom guitars, or influenced a generation of guitar players as much as, if not more than anybody who ever picked up the instrument. I've said all that before. What I can tell you is for a number of years, we were pretty good friends. I can tell you he was generous, funny as fuck, and honest as hell. I can tell you I was in awe every moment I spent with him. There is one last thing I can tell you. I jammed with Edward Van Halen. One evening, I'd gone over to his house for some reason. He may have called, which he'd do from time to time, and say he wanted to hang out and spend some hours out in 5150, his studio. His guitars were laying all over the place, strewn on the floor, standing up in corners, and the outboard gear was turned on and lit up like the cockpit of an airplane. He picked up one of his Strats and handed it to me and said, "Let's jam." I looked at him sideways and thought, right, I'll just jam with Eddie Van Halen. I can do that. Ed picked up a bass, plugged in, and looked at me and saw I was frozen in place. He said something like, "Just play the fucking guitar." It's hard to remember exactly what he said, but that was the import of it. So I was sitting there with one of his butchered Strats in my arms while he reached over to the Marshall I was plugged into and adjusted the volume and tone. I'd turned the volume all the way down on the guitar because I couldn't even bring myself to make a sound. In the meantime, I had plugged the bass into another rig and was starting to noodle around. If I was partially inert before, I was now a statue. I had gazed into the eyes of Medusa and I was made of stone. My fingers refused to work and I could barely remember how to hold a pick. He continued to mess around on the bass and looked over at me again because nothing was happening. He didn't say a word, but shot me a look that said, "Come on, it's no big deal, just play." I loved him for that. I could breathe again. I turned the volume knob, held the pick steady, strummed a chord, and it was the fucking most beautiful guitar sound I had ever heard. It was the chord heard round the world, a clarion call, the siren sweetly singing, the fucking voice of God. I had played guitar for many years prior to this, and I've had Marshalls, Fenders, acoustics, Ampegs, Line 6s, as well as every guitar from a St. George 12-string to a Mustang Strat Telecaster Les Paul and Ibanez. And I've never come within 1,000 miles of a tone like this. I've never been in the same universe as a sound like this. I turned up the volume a bit louder and started fiddling around. I looked over at Ed to make sure I wasn't fucking up or annoying him, and he flashed me one of his heartwarming smiles, and that's all I needed. For about the next hour, we jammed. I tentatively started playing a riff I'd written for one of my songs. I'd been a songwriter for years, and Ed said, "What's that?" I told him it was something I wrote, and he started working up bass parts. He had me keep playing the same riff over and over as he came up with ideas. It was an extraordinary moment because for a brief second, I had a close encounter with the way Edward approached his own songwriting. I could hear him refining the ideas on bass and searching around for what would follow the riff. His sense of harmony was so groundbreaking, and he started coming up with these riffs that took the song to a place I couldn't have imagined in 10,000 years. Ed had inserted a cassette into the boombox when we first started playing. He recorded everything he ever did, and I can remember seeing boxes and boxes of tapes. When we were done, Ed handed me the tape. The gesture was perfect. Edward understood exactly who he was and what it meant for me to sit there with him for an hour and jam. He had that sense about himself, and in all the times I spent with him, I never heard him brag or boast about his own playing. Never. Which is why for that one evening, I was just another guitar player, an equal. When we were done, Edward started talking about my song. He asked what I was doing with it and stuff like that, and I couldn't believe I was having this conversation. I muttered something about it just being a riff I had, and he said he wanted to work on it some more, and would that be okay? He even hinting at maybe working it up in some form or another for the next album. He said those words to me again. It's insanely hard to remember exactly what he said because it's probably somewhere over 35 years ago, and I couldn't believe I was hearing them. I had been a struggling songwriter for years, and then in the blink of an eye, Eddie Van Halen tells you he wants to work on your song. I was buoyant, speechless, transformed. That's all I could think about in the weeks to come. Nothing ever happened with the song. Of course, Van Halen never recorded it. I was heartbroken, pissed off, and disillusioned, but not surprised. I knew the chances of that riff ever finding its way onto a Van Halen album was about as likely as me dating Jennifer Connelly. Pretty fucking unlikely. But for one night, I did play guitar with Edward Van Halen. I just took that tape out and listened to it. Ed's playing was magical, of course, and mine, pretty fucking cool. I've not spoken with Ed for decades. We had a falling out over what I thought was an incredibly stupid misunderstanding, but he didn't think so and never talked to me again. And that hurt for a long time, but I finally got over it. Sometimes it seems as if I never really knew him or met him, and that I've made up all these stories and I never interviewed him or wrote about him. But the truth is, for about 10 years or so, I was lucky enough to have been part of his life. I am grateful for that. I miss him. End quote.
Wow. It's powerful, man.
That's spectacular.
It is.
And everything
Wow.
she just read holds true to the same reading style of those first three paragraphs in that book that he just
Yeah.
wrote.
Yeah.
That's good reading.
It leads itself to the title of your book too, Tone Chaser. You know, it really does.
Think so?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's too
Absolutely.
cool,
That's
Steve.
cool, man. I'm glad you guys dug that. You know,
Way too cool, man.
my cat is scratching my leg, so I have to let him jump up on there. Come on. His name is Arpeggio, if anybody's interested. Come on.
Arpeggio, nice.
Very cool.
Come on, crazy. Come on. Come on. Get up. Good boy.
So Steve, we
yeah.
were asking you about titles many months ago, and there was no real working title. When did this title happen, and how did it happen?
That's a good question. I think the original title I'd given to you guys, which is the title I was sort of messing with, was A Life Was His. You know, being a little poetic, like this was his life, a life was his, was, you know, this fantastic life. I thought, that's a little too obscure, you know. And, you know, I kept writing. And then I come upon, towards the end of the book, one of the final things he said to me, he goes, yeah, man, I'm a tone chaser. I can't remember what the quote is after that. You know, I'm always looking for, you know, the tone or something. I thought, oh my God, that's so fucking great. And I thought it was amazing for several reasons. I've interviewed 500 guitar players, and I've never heard one of them ever described, you know, their pursuit of the perfect guitar sound. It's like, oh, I'm a tone chaser.
Mhm.
I've never, ever heard anybody else use that. And I've never heard Edward ever use that in any other interview. I've never read any other interviews that he's ever done where he's ever used that. I just thought it was so, it was just so eloquent. It was so like, I mean, he could have said, yeah, man, I'm always looking for a better guitar sound. I'm always, you know, fucking my guitars, you know, but to say I'm a tone chaser, I mean, I don't know, man, it just hit me. I thought, oh my God, that's so perfect, you know? And, so that's where that came from. I thought that was perfect. And then the second line, understanding Edward, I thought was pretty cool because it kind of works on 2 levels. So it's understanding Edward, as in I'm trying to understand Edward, you're trying to understand Edward, we're all trying to understand Edward. And then sort of lying below that is sort of understanding as an adjective, understanding Edward, like sympathetic Edward or gentle Edward, you know. So now and I thought, oh, that's cool. That's pretty cool, you know. And then my 26-year journey with Edward Van Halen. And I'd actually messed around with, you know, well, is it my 26-year journey? Is it my 26-year odyssey? Was it my 26-year adventure? You know, but somehow journey just kind of seemed to sum it up. So, yeah, and I mean, I love that the photo that's Neil's Lozauer's photo. We all know that Neil took the greatest photos of Ed anybody's ever seen. At least I thought so. You know, and it's a pensive Edward, and when you start reading the book, you'll understand kind of how his, you know, facial expression there is sort of the, you know, the backbone of the book, you know, and it's not Edward like we've seen him on the other covers of books that have come out, and you know, and then the splits, excuse me, the smiling Edward or the triumphant Edward. This is an understanding Edward. This is an inward-looking Edward. This is looking past the musician, you know, to what's that guy inside. And I saw that picture and I thought, wow, man, he's thinking about something, you know. I don't think he's thinking about his guitar at that moment. So I love that photo.
I think that's why it's going to be so awesome too, because you know everybody has their opinion and their vision, and this is going to be so totally different that that's why it's going to be so epic and amazing. So I think you're gonna capture something that people aren't even looking for, you know.
Well, was it you,
I mean,
Steve? Was it you that said that Zlaz had a bunch of photos that no one had ever seen, and he had seconds and thirds of various shoots from the past, and you saw all of these? Is that right?
I didn't personally see them. What happened was Neil's coming out with a book
Oh,
of color photos.
that's what.
Right,
It
that's
was.
okay, but it sort of ties in though of his color shots and the preponderance of these no one has ever seen. The book's going to be called Ed by Zloz, and I mean some of these pictures are so. I mean they're just astonishing, and they're astonishing because Neil never thought that these photos were worth putting. He would never, you know, somebody's looking for a photo of Van Halen. He would never have sent any of these photos out, or most of them, because they didn't live up to Neil's, you know, his yardstick, what he measured his photos by. You know, as a writer reading my own stuff or hearing my own stuff, I can't listen to it. I can't read it with the ears that you guys can, you know, and a musician can never hear his music the way somebody else can. And that's one of the, you know, I don't know. I mean, it's a sad thing. So Neil looks at these photos and he goes, look at his face. You know, he's not looking at the camera. And, look at his guitar. It's bent. You know, but these pictures are so unbelievable.
Yeah,
So
I bet.
what I did was Neil has a site called Atlas Icons, and you can see every Van Halen photo that Neil's ever shot.
Wow.
So what I wanted to do is I wanted to use photos that no one had ever seen. I wanted to use photos that no one had ever used. And I asked Neil about some of them. He didn't remember. He didn't remember if a photo might have been used in an old issue of Circus or Cream or in some foreign Japanese magazine or something. But that cover photo, some of you may recognize that session where Ed's kind of leaning back on that table there. And that's actually a chalkboard, which I thought was fantastic. Because somebody said, "Oh, the text should have been like it was written in chalk." I thought was pretty clever.
Yeah.
But you've seen other pictures from that session, but you haven't seen that one. And I specifically picked one that no one had ever seen.
Great picture.
So Yeah, I mean that photo is amazing.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
Unbelievable.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
on.
So there are also there's some photos inside. They're all black and white. A bunch of color photos that I turned into black and whites. A lot of the photos that have to do with me. A lot of stuff from my archives, not necessarily Van Halen photos, but things that I reference in the book. I think you guys will really kind of dig. It kind of ties things together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Right
pretty
on.
cool.
Very cool.
Pretty cool.
Let me mention at some point in the evening, we are gonna run some Van Halen trivia. But in tonight's case, it's gonna be Steve Rosen trivia.
Ah,
Nice.
We're gonna
Um,
get
do
you
I get
guys.
to join? Can I answer?
I think you'll
Hell,
know.
I'd probably lose. I told you, you guys know more about me
Steve
than I
hasn't
do.
seen this question
No,
yet.
I think you'll know it.
Yeah,
That's funny.
but yeah, we'll get there and we'll give somebody $1 million Van Halen dollars. A
$1
million,
Nice.
million. And we'll
Good
chunk
money.
a couple of nice looking Halenville Live picks in there too.
Cool.
Excellent.
But yeah, some Van Halen, some Steve Rosen trivia tonight. Yeah.
Nice. Rockin' Rosen.
And I've got a unboxing at some point. Yeah, little Van Halen style unboxing. It will.
Cool.
Cool. Tony, can I take a second here to say hello to
Sure.
some people out here?
Absolutely.
Well, first off, everybody who's here, thank you so much. Everybody who's been checking out the book, that means so much to me. Holly Lewis, thank you. She sent me a bunch of very, very nice, supportive letters. Holly, hello. Adam, I just did a podcast with Adam from Australia, fantastic guy, and he was tremendous.
Adam Roach, yes, friend of the show.
And oh, excellent. Who else here? I mean, I know I should recognize some more of these names. But again, to everybody, thank you. Thank you for stopping by and thank you for checking out the book.
That's cool,
Yeah.
bro. Most cool, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks,
Hey,
Mitch.
Mitch Heyman. How you doing, Mitch? Good to see you, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Excuse me again. And I wanted to give a shout out to Tommy and John. You guys, you fucking better heal up quickly, guys. And to Greg Renoff, who's doing the show next week. Greg was really helpful. I'd shoot Greg. Greg, when did Edward, when did he drive that black Maserati? Or, you know what I mean? So I thought if anybody would have that kind of, inane trivia, it would be Greg. But he was really helpful to me. So
That's
Yeah.
cool.
appreciate that.
That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Looking forward to that next week. Yeah. So Steve, you're thinking about April or May on us getting our hands on these books?
Well, look, I was hoping to have all the artwork and all the, I wasn't sure how you put a book together. I mean, it's not like a publisher where I would have just sent off a manuscript in Word and I would have been done with it. So this manuscript, these 450 pages, need to be, put in a format so the printer can take them and put them in and they appear properly in a book and the margins are correct and the spacing between the lines is correct and everything is justified, meaning, everything lines up on the right and the left. So you have to, put the spaces and that takes time, so I'm hoping that we can get done by March 1st. So if everything was in the hands of the printer by March 1st, I mean, in a perfect world, we'd have it 6 months later, which would be the middle of April, and like a week to get it out here. So that's why I say the end of April in a perfect world, but nothing's perfect. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking, mid-May,
Right.
June, July. No, I'm kidding. But I mean, trust me, I want the book out there maybe more than people want it out there. I mean, I just kind of, I want to see that first book at the post office and in the mail.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm just working as fast as I can. My art director, who's worked on Niels Lozauer's books, working on the upcoming photo book. Daniel Gray is working on it, and we put the cover together, and the back cover is fantastic. I think you guys will really love the back cover. And he's putting everything together, and the graphics, and that little bit you saw on that page that I had when I was posting, and that silhouette is actually from one of Zloz's photos. So I thought, yeah, man, that's cool. Let's put that in there. That was his idea. So yeah, I want it to be beautiful. I want it to, I want it to have a presence, a gravitas as it is. So, perfection takes time, fellas. So just hang in there.
There you go, Steve. Is this the only book on Edward, or?
Well, and again, this is just me, spitballing out here. I have, as much as there are bits of interviews you guys haven't read that appear in the book, those full interviews are not in the book. The book would have been 800 pages long. So there's all of that stuff that still exists. And even though I do talk about what's on these tapes, and I do show a lot of it, transcribed, there's still stuff that's not there. Plus, I have all those interviews that I've done with all those people that I was interviewing for the first book. There's some really amazing stuff there, friends, and, like I said. The other idea that I had, and I bandied about, is coming out with some kind of an enhanced audiobook, maybe is a way to describe it. So basically, it would maybe follow the script of TONECHASER, but then when I'm there jamming with Ed, like I described in that Facebook passage, however a audiobook works, you press go, and now here's Ed and Steve jamming. Nice. And here's Ed playing those riffs from the third record, and here's Ed's actual voice talking about his father and Wolfgang, and so that's another idea that I had. So wow. Could there be more books? Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah, I love audiobooks.
There's a lot more in the archives. Yeah.
I listen to them on my way to work all the time. Yeah.
Or if I could get somebody fantastic, to kind of read TONECHASER, somebody amazing, some, guy with some incredible voice,
There are a couple. There's a couple people that come to my mind because I listen to audiobooks all the time.
Who would you think? Brendan?
Have you ever heard of Scott Brick? He's a very good. He's a good fiction narrator, but he's done other stuff. And there's another guy that's an actor, Eduardo Ballerini. Those guys will be amazing voices. Really? So yeah, I can see.
What if they were Van Halen fans and it's like, hey, yeah, I'd love to do that, man. You know what I mean?
Hey, you never know. I'm actually friends with Scott Brick on Facebook. Maybe I'll shoot him a quick note. Say, hey, Scott, what are you doing?
Interesting.
That'd be cool.
Whose voice I always loved was Sam Elliott.
The
big mustache, Sam Elliott. You got such a fantastic voice.
That would be awesome. That'd be awesome.
I hear him or someone like Morgan Freeman in the voice of God.
Morgan Freeman would be
Morgan Freeman. James Earl Jones.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
James Earl Jones.
Yeah. That would be great.
Exactly.
Amazing. Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, something to think about.
Yeah, man.
Steve, I want to ask you this. We talked about this some a year ago, talking about this book. Did you reach out before you were complete to Van Halen, the family, or the camp at all?
I did not. My first instinct was I would like to do that. I wanted to reach out to Alex, and I thought maybe I could reach out to Valerie, and Wolfgang. You know what I was hoping with Wolfgang, what I was hoping was going to happen, was that he would see or read somewhere, oh, this Steve Rosen is writing a book about my dad. You know, whether Ed would ever mention my name to Wolf or not, I don't have an idea. I don't have any idea. Probably not. But I thought Wolf would see, hey, well, this guy knew my dad for 26 years and he wrote all these stories. You know, he must know something about him. He must have something to say about him. I thought somewhere along the line he would reach out to me because I really have no idea how to find him. You know, putting a post on his page is, I mean, that's, you know, he's never going to read that. So, you know, it's like I kept kind of waiting for the phone to ring. Like, hey, man, this Wolfgang Van Halen, you know, obviously that never happened. So, yeah, I mean, I did think about reaching out to them, but then I thought, no. No matter what I wrote in the book, I mean, it could have been 450 pages of me saying Edward was the greatest guitar player in the world. They would probably find some fault with it. You know, something wasn't going to sit right with them. And now to have them sort of involved on that level, you know, I just didn't, you know, I just couldn't see reaching out to them.
You know, Steve, I'm going to play the devil's advocate for a minute. I do that from time to time. This is your story, brother. It just happens to be about somebody who was a guitar player in a band that we consider to be the greatest. And so whether they give you their blessing or not, I want to hear your story.
Yeah.
You know, I personally, I don't really care. I don't want them hurt, but at the same time,
yeah,
I'm a fan of your writing. I've been listening. I've been reading your work. I don't even want to say how long. It'll give away our age. I'm a fan of you. And the fact that you have this connection with someone we hold in such high esteem is just, we're blessed.
Mm-hmm.
And we're blessed to know you. We're blessed to be able to sit here on YouTube and talk about this. So anyway, that's my take on it, my man.
Well, Matt,
that's how I feel.
That's
Charles,
that's extraordinarily.
By that same token, too, I kind of think that the fact that the family was not involved may actually be part and parcel with the reason why you didn't want to go through, why you circumvented traditional publishers too. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with you didn't want to be edited. You wanted this to be
right.
Everything you wanted to put in it. You wanted to make that final call, that decision. If there are things left out, it wasn't because a publisher said it's too long. It was because you didn't want it in there. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, this is the book that you wanted to put out. And maybe that was a blessing in disguise.
You know, and another thing on that, if I may add, Tony was telling me about this book before you came on. He was mentioning the fact that you were going to put it out yourself. And I stopped him. I said, you mean to tell me that Steve's not going to have this published and he's going to do it himself? And he goes, yeah. I said, you mean Steve is going to basically sell this out of the trunk of his car? And he goes, yeah, I want it even more. Yeah. I want it even more. And that is so Van Halen. Right on, dude. So anyway, yes, give it to me. Give it to me.
You know, that's really extraordinary to hear, man. I mean, because I got to be complete. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys because you're being completely honest with me. And I haven't said this to anyone before. my brother, I think my brother knows. So I finished the book, and I'm going to be honest. My first instinct was, I'm going to go find a publisher. He's going to fucking fall over himself when he sees this book. And, I'm going to tell him, yes, I know there's another book out there now. And then, Brad's book and Paul Brannigan's book is coming. And I think there's a third book coming. I said, but mine is like nothing like those books. This is completely different. He was my friend. I knew him for 26 years. These other writers, as great as they were and as good as their books are, that's not the story that they had. They did not know how to tell that story. And that's what I thought the movie was going to be. Well, I sent it to an agent, and he hated it. Wow. He goes, no publisher will ever publish this. It's too long. No one gives a shit about you in terms of, the stuff where I'm kind of giving you a little bit of my background. Yeah. To me, it's important to the story. They said look, they didn't speak in that language. It was in an email, but they said, there's too much about you. It's too long. No publisher's ever going to publish this. Good luck to you. Okay, that was a little disheartening.
That's a pile of crap right there. That's.
So I sent it. That was an agent. I sent it to a publisher. And I don't even want to mention the company name. I mean, I have their books. I love this publisher. I love their line of books. And he got back to me. He says, man, we had a meeting, and you were that close to us publishing your book. I want you to know that, man. We really like the book. I thought, okay, that's cool. Sent it to a third publisher, much smaller music press. And he wrote back, and he says, well, we're coming out with a book on, I don't even want to say the name of the artist because you might be able to figure out the publisher, and I don't want to do that. He compared my book to like another one of the 1,000 books that they put out, which is basically just another book of interviews. This guy had spent a little bit of time with this artist, and that's the format my book had to take. So, I was a little bit disillusioned, I must admit. I called Neil Zlozauer because I knew he knew some publishers because of his photo books. I said, hey, man, give me some names of some publishers. I need to get my book out there. And Neil, being Neil, says, you fucking idiot. Don't have the publisher publish it. You're not going to get any money, and they don't know what the fuck you're doing. Put it out yourself. And I never even thought about it because, honestly, I've had 7 books published previously. Not on huge, imprints, but they were published, real life publishers. And I thought, that's cool. I'm a writer and a book publisher publishing my book. I always looked at a book that you self-publish as, that guy couldn't get his book published, so he put it out himself. Well, I'm sure that's true to some extent because that's why you would, put out a book yourself. But I really believe that. And I was like, oh, man, I don't want to put this thing out myself. People look at it and go, oh, my God, the guy's this big-time journalist or whatever, and he can't even get his fucking book published. So Zlo says, put it out yourself. So I started making calls to printers and stuff, and I was actually going to do it overseas. But, the whole COVID thing and trying to get books out of the LA ports would have been nightmarish. It's still going on out here. Yeah. So I found this other printer who actually knew me. He knew my writing. He says, oh my God, this is great. I have to do this book and this and that. And I was like, man, I don't know if it was serendipity or what, but it was just fantastic. So, the fact that you look at it, Charles, it's like this DIY, thing that I had hands-on. I love that because the truth of it is there was stuff in there that a publisher would not publish. They wouldn't have published that shit. Yes. Yes. Not that it was horrible muckraking stuff, but it was dark and it was honest, and I have it on tape, so it's all the truth. So, but I know they wouldn't have printed it. So, yeah, in that respect, I'm really happy. Plus, I get a one-on-one connection, with people who, are sending in the PayPals, and they'll put these little notes. Hey, man, I read your '85 Guitar World story, and we appreciate what you're doing. And I mean,
Millions
love
of
that
people,
stuff.
maybe. Plus, you
Yeah.
get the luxury of shipping all these.
Oh yeah,
You are truly doing it
It's
all,
going to
and
be
you're
a
earning
gazillion
every
of them.
dime,
yeah, man.
Steve. I
I
give
don't
you
even
kudos,
know where
but
2,000. I mean, I don't even know if I could fit 2,000 books in my condo. Fuck.
I'm waiting for the book
Yeah.
tour. So the book tour should be coming, and you'll be seeing,
Yeah.
you know, and the
That would be
interviews, and
fun.
it's gonna blow up. I'm telling you. And
Yep.
you may be getting some accolades from the family. You never know. You never know who's gonna
Yeah, I
read it.
wouldn't
And we're
rule it out.
no, I
rule
wouldn't
it out.
either. And
Well,
no matter what, it's your story. So that you've said it before, it's your story, and
it's
you have
true.
facts to back it up. So it's not
It
false.
is true.
You know.
It's all on tape.
Yeah.
Yep.
How did you
Yeah.
describe it,
Yeah.
Steve? You said they were your twilight tapes. Is that the word you used?
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
The middle of the night conversations.
Yeah.
Exactly. At first, I was calling them my midnight tapes, and I thought twilight tapes had a little better
Yeah, that's cool. I
uh,
like that.
alliteration to it. Yeah. So the cat waking me up, but it also worked that when Edward would call, it was always late at night, right? I mean, he never called at 3 p.m. He never called in the early morning. You know, he never called late afternoon or early evening. It was always 1 or 3. You know, and when the phone rang, I always knew who it was. You know, I mean, let's face it. No good news travels late at night, right? You get a late night phone call, right? Somebody's, God forbid, sick or something's happened, right?
Yeah.
Nobody calls you at 3 a.m. to say, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" Well, Edward did that.
He did.
he go, "Hi, Steve, it's Edward." Like I never recognized his name. He said that every time,
Mm.
and then he say, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, Ed, it's 3 a.m. What the fuck do you think I'm doing?" No, I never said that to him, But I asked him early on, and I write about this in the book. I said, "Hey, man, can I kind of record?" He says, "Hey, man, you can record anything you want. Record anytime." So I would, I would have the cassette player near the phone, and the phone would ring. And if I wasn't too tired, if I could find the fucking record button, I'd press record, and I got those conversations. What makes me crazy is I know there were a lot more, and I missed some of them, and that just irritates me. But at least I got those,
Yeah.
and they were, I had all my interviews on cassettes that my friend Dave Jeffress, would label. And so I had them all in little binders. The binders, open up with like the little plastic cutouts. You put the cassettes in, and I had those all. They were all, volume 1, volume 2. I had a, like a what's a word? Like an outline of, volume 1, tape 1, Gary Brooker, tape 2, Supertramp, so I knew everything, but then there was this one binder and I didn't know what they were. It was like a black binder and it was broken. It was broken in half. And I looked at it and I did not know what these cassettes were. This is when I started the book. I hadn't looked at this, probably since they were done. I mean, certainly for whatever, 85, 86, 87, whatever that is. And I looked at it and I go, I didn't recognize any of them. And I saw Edward Van Halen phoner. Edward Van Halen phoner. And I put it on and I hear this fucking unbelievable stuff. And I go, oh my God, that's those tapes that I recorded late at night. And oh God, I have those. And so that was really kind of the heart of the book. I mean, those interviews, they weren't scheduled interviews. They weren't, formal interviews. There was no magazine involved. I wasn't asking him about his new guitar or a song. He was talking about his life, and I was telling him about my life. And
you had no deadline.
Some of those.
You guys were ahead of your time. Him recording you and you recording him.
Yeah.
And Steve, you had no deadline. You weren't trying to make a deadline on something you were writing.
You're right. And I thought about that. When I, in fact, my brother asked me, he says, well, why don't you, because typically books like this, you usually have a publisher before you write. You don't write an entire book and then go after a publisher. But then my brother said, well, if you got a publisher before you start the book, and he says, we need the book in 6 months, what the fuck do you do?
Right.
But you're right. There's no way I could have written that book in 6 months. I could have written a book in 6 months. It wouldn't have been that book. So yeah, there was no deadline. And in that respect,
things happen for a reason, Steve. Things happen for a reason. This version we're getting of this book is absolutely unique. It's not the way it might have been. It's not a cookie cutter, and it's got no other hands on it, but the people that you choose to have involved in it.
It's the way it's supposed to be.
Dude. Way cool.
The way it's supposed to
and
be.
Unique.
Yep.
Unique.
Yep.
I hope so. I mean, I really, I could not have written a better book, right? I mean, it's the best writing I've ever done. And, hopefully when you guys read it, you're as, psyched about it after you read it as you are right now. I mean, that's
there you go.
No doubt.
That's everything.
No doubt at all.
Very cool, bro.
Oh man.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. I tell you what, let's do, Steve. If you would, sir, can join us for some trivia tonight.
Yep.
No guessing though, Steve. You can't guess.
Yeah.
I'd get it wrong anyway, Brendan.
I don't know.
This is Steve Rosen trivia tonight.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, Keith Campbell. How you doing, bro?
Keith, good to see you. All right. Let's find our question. All right, kids, we're gonna be playing for some green
Good money. Good money.
backs, and we'll do a little unboxing right after this. Yeah. Everybody ready for some trivia? If you're
Good
the
luck,
winner,
you guys.
yeah, if
Good
you're
luck.
the winner, email address down below, trivia winners. Email me your name and address. I'll mail you that out tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah, so Steve, I've been trying to make these questions here on Halenville Live harder and harder, but
Good.
they
were too easy before.
They keep getting them.
It's a savvy bunch.
Yeah. But all right, so you got to know your Steve Rosen in order to get this. But good luck. Here we go. What was the name of the article that Steve wrote about guitar picks that appeared in Guitar Player magazine in 1975? What was the name of the article?
If anybody knows that out there,
They'll know it, man.
that would.
Someone's probably got the article too. Right now.
All right, so we'll keep an eye on the chat. There's, let me see where the answer is. Yeah, okay. So, yeah.
That's a hard one. That's not a cakewalk, Tony. That's
No. It's a tough question.
I believe I see a correct answer.
I do. Let me take this down.
Wow. Look at that. Look at that.
Where is it
Right
at?
there, guys. Right there.
Let me find it. My hand is slow. Where is it at? Thank you, Sandra. Thank you. See, I don't have no hands.
Congrats,
Really?
Holly.
No hands.
Nice-
Holly
nicely
Lewis.
done. Nicely
The
done.
picks of rock and roll.
Very well done, Holly.
Guys, I'm gonna. Can I? I'm not sure about this, Holly. It's the picks of rock and roll. But we're gonna let you have it.
We're gonna let her.
I think.
Let me show
Do
an
you have the
image.
issue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have the issue there, Tony?
Yeah. Let's.
He'll be popping the picture up in a sec.
I think it's the picks. Yeah.
Yep. Picks of rock and roll.
And you know what else I thought was weird? That they capitalized and.
Yeah.
But they didn't capitalize of. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was a fun story. You know, I actually just, the girl who shot that, I don't even know where I met her, Joanna Cucinato. Oh, she Googled it. Yeah. I actually reached out to her. I found her on Facebook or something and asked her if she remembered that. I thought she might have had some other photos, you know, some other shots that she took of those pics, but those are the only ones. But
Wow.
It was fun doing that.
That's awesome.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
So
Yeah.
how would she?
They
How
are
would she
smart.
even Google that?
Steve Rosen.
how would you even Google it?
1975 story. Yeah. I'm sure.
Wow.
Yeah. Google's crazy. You put anything in there and everything you could think of will pop up.
Yeah. Search engines are getting so good.
Let me say this too. Steve Rosen is also, for those.
Oh, Holly, I
of
was
us-
joking.
No,
Oh no, you're good, Holly. You're good.
Steve basically helped put the hobby of this, which I partake in, on the map way back in the day. So Steve helped put that on the map.
He's the pioneer of pick collecting.
He is, absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
That's very nice.
And two, should it be known that when we started Show Me Your Pick, Steve had a list of show names and I had a list of show names, and Show Me Your Pick came off of Steve's list.
No,
Wow.
did it really?
Yeah,
Cool.
it
Very
did.
That's cool.
That is awesome.
It
Are you
did.
are you sure, Tony?
I'm sure. We've talked about this.
Huh?
Yeah.
I
It
don't
might have been
remember.
on your
That's
cat's
cool.
list.
I thought that was a fucking great name for the show. I was wondering who came up with that.
So I saw Dan of New Jersey. I'm gonna open this box in the chat earlier. Now he got one of these things too. Dan was one of our winners that joined us at the Super Bowl backstage bash after Show Me Your Pick Saturday, and was the grand prize winner in trivia backstage and won one of these things right here. He did. And I'm sure that I'm probably the last one to get mine, but nevertheless.
Oh yeah.
It's way cool.
That is
Awesome.
cool.
Very, very cool.
The Funko Pop.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that are still waiting for those that have put orders in. So if anybody got theirs, congratulations.
I didn't get mine yet. I pre-ordered it a while back. Yeah.
I haven't gotten mine yet.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I ordered a couple of those, and Dan in New Jersey grabbed the other one at the backstage bash the other night.
Very cool.
Yep, he did.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
I hope it's arrived by now. It's Wednesday, maybe not.
Steve, when's your own Funko Pop gonna come out?
Yeah.
We got to have one like the old picture of you at the big fro. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Holding a pen.
I'd get one of those.
That's
awesome.
funny.
So Steve, is there now that excuse me, now that restrictions are being lifted all over the place, is there any rock honors happening this year?
You mean like shows and stuff? You mean?
No, the rock honors, rock god. What do you call it, Steve?
Oh, rock gods.
Rock gods. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. Just to fill in here a little bit, I sort of co-founded a this project called Rock Gods Hall of Fame, and whereas the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in New York, celebrates pretty much the Stones and Bon Jovi and Metallica. Rock Gods Hall of Fame was meant to kind of shine a light on more kind of unsung guys, like the rhythm guitar player in a band, or guys who didn't necessarily get the limelight. And we've had like these inductions. I mean, some extraordinary people, Doug Aldrich, guys who have played in a bunch of bands, and they have names, but they're not like household names,
Right.
Oh God, there's so many producers and
Michael
stuff.
Anthony.
Michael Anthony. Oh God, I'm so bad. Yeah, a bunch of people, a bunch of really cool people actually.
Lucas.
But because of the COVID thing, yeah, it's had to have been. You can't do that stuff. So yeah, hopefully with things opening up a little, yeah, maybe they'll have another one coming up later this year.
Very cool.
Typically, I think they're like later in the year, September, October.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, rock gods. That's cool.
Right.
Yeah, Lukather, Steve Vai. I mean, obviously we know who these people are, but it's not like they're, Slash or David Gilmour. I mean, Tim Pierce, amazing session guy. Yeah, a bunch of people. Cool. Tracy Guns. Yeah. Howard Leese. A bunch of people.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Steve, we've been waiting on this book I've been waiting on this book. I've known about this book, even though I didn't know about this book for a long time. So we're all, as Van Halen fans, glad to see this finally coming to life. Yeah, good for
Thanks.
you and good for all of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Steve,
well, thanks, guys. I mean,
can I throw one thing out there? There's obviously far more that we could get into, and I've watched every show that you've done of other people, so I'm listening to you talk. I don't want to ask the same questions and things like that you've done on other shows, but I want to point out really quick before you go, since we had talked about the title, TONECHASER, and you referenced that that you've only heard it come from him, you only heard it come one time. I think you also used the word serendipity a little bit ago, which is that happy accident kind of thing. I think as a guitar builder myself, one of the first things, my very first Frankenstrat guitar that I built, one of the things that I was fascinated by was the fact that he used a tone knob on the volume. And I just thought that was the coolest. And this is going back decades when I first discovered everything, I just thought that was so cool and interesting and so indicative of Eddie. And it only came from him. That was the thing that was him. So when I found out that you changed the name of this to TONECHASER, and as you described it, that was so just his there's something about that kind of brings it all back. It's like a perfect circle because there's a tone knob on the guitar instead of a volume knob. And I can't tell you how happy I am that you titled it what you did.
It is a great title.
It really is.
That's cool, man.
Very well done, Neil. Absolutely wonderful.
I guess it's my naivete, because I mean, I had no idea. I mean, you guys, I was on, I did the Johnny Bean show, and they got, those guys. Well, you guys too. I mean, you know 1,000 times more about Edward and his guitars than I do. I've never been that kind of a journalist. I mean, you know, you could put, you know, Les Pauls in front of me. I couldn't tell you if it was a 58 or a 59 or, you know, I just, my mind doesn't work like that. But, you know, when you pick up on things like that, and that's when Ed, and you'll love that moment in the book, and maybe you heard it in the Johnny Bean show where Ed is asking if he can take off the knob, you know, and because he doesn't say knob. That's why I'm asking those guys, what the fuck is he talking about? Is he talking about is he talking about the you know, the little plastic tip on the end of the pickup selector switch? Is he talking about, you know, the volume knob or the tone knob? And you know, I mean, I had no idea. And then they explained what he did. I go, oh my God, that's what he did. I can remember him, you know, trying to pull the thing off, and then, you know, me asking the question, does it come off? You know, I don't know. And, you know, it's like me asking you know, can you breathe underwater? Well, of course you can't breathe underwater, moron. You know, you're not a fish. You know, and Ed says, well, yeah, I think it does. You know what I mean? It's like he was so understanding. He can say, well, you play guitar and you don't know that it comes off, you moron? You know what I mean? I mean, of course he knew it came off. But I mean, those are those little things, you know, that I think that are just fantastic about him. And that's what, you know, I tried to write about. So yeah, man, the fact that you love that title, I mean, that's cool, because for you it means something different than it meant to me. That is so cool. That is great. That is so excellent. I love that, man.
That's absolutely true. But at the same time, I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to, as Charles mentioned before too, your story that your childlike naivete, as you just described, those type of things are why I want to read this. We've read 1,000 books about Eddie's guitars. Everybody on these chats has researched and nitpicked and nuanced had debates for decades about was it ash, was it basswood, was it, you know, those type of things. I'm looking forward to your book because of the stories, the human element. I'm so fascinated and so excited. And Sandra, reading your post, like Charles said, Charles cheated and got the first 3 paragraphs, but hearing Sandra read your words, it's poetry, and I'm ready for it. I'm so ready for it.
Right there, baby. Well said.
That's really nice, man. That's really nice. Thank you, Sandra. You know, when you guys did that originally, I mean, I was like, I was totally. I mean, honestly, I was brought to my knees by that.
Yeah.
That was really special for me.
Yeah. But you have to realize how special it was reading it originally first, Steve.
Yeah.
You know.
I get it.
Yeah, that's where it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Eyes get leaky with respect and stuff.
Yeah. I'm not crying. You're crying.
Pleasure is always to have you with us.
Shut up, you're crying.
It's good when you come home, Dad.
It's in my eye.
Steve,
All right.
you're a hero to a lot of people. Let's just leave it at that. You might not believe it, and I'm sure you'll probably deny it, but you're a hero to a lot of people, and a lot of people are happy that you're telling this story. So
that's right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That is really nice.
Absolutely.
I can't even express to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is a long time coming, Steve. Yeah.
It is. You know, and somebody had brought up that maybe one of the reasons I was waiting so long, and I never thought about this, and I can't remember who said it. Maybe it was somebody on one of your shows, but somebody said, well, maybe I was waiting so long to finally write this book because somewhere in the back of my head, I thought that I was going to reconnect with Edward somewhere, or I was going to pick up the phone one day. Who said that?
Charles said it.
That was me, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You said, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
I thought,
you're good, man.
So,
you're good. Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I never, it was lingering back there, you know, the ephemera of it somehow. But I mean, you know, I wasn't conscious of it, but it was kind of back there. And I thought, yeah, maybe I was waiting for that. And at a point in time, maybe I realized that's probably never going to happen, you know. And then, yeah, I mean, to begin the book 2 months before he passed was a little weird. I mean, I don't, you know, that whole thing that, I mean, that's a little too much to say, but I don't know, man. It just felt like, yeah, that was a time to kind of start the book. But yeah. So it's cool, man.
So Steve, this is just the beginning, bro, because what we'd like to do, I mean, I know Tony and everybody wants you back on here once we're all reading this, and so we can talk about it a little bit. I promise I'm only going to ask you like 25, 30 questions. I'll keep it to 25 or 30, and Neil will do about 25 or 30. We'll be here for 3 or 4 days, but it'll be awesome.
Yep.
I'll sit here all night with you guys because that is really someone I just saw a little bit. It's almost like Eddie made you wait. I didn't.
Yeah, I was trying to pop it up. There we go.
Oh, Holly said that. Hey, you know, I don't know. Maybe you'll read the book and you'll see. You'll see if that's what he thought. But about the questions, see that's going to be a. Thanks, Ed. That's going to be a fantastic conversation after you guys have read it.
Yes.
To have those conversations. I mean,
Yeah.
That's when it's going to get real, Steve.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're going to call you at 3 o'clock in the morning. And
Yeah,
wake
rest
you
up.
Exactly.
Rest up, man, because you're going to get
And
a
we're
lot
going to
of
say, hit record.
feedback.
Twilight tapes.
We're coming.
Exactly.
Guys, not that you don't have a smile on your face right now, but let me put a smile on your face right now. I just got a text message, and I want to show you this. All right.
My phone's going off too.
All right.
Tommy.
That's who it's from Tom, and that's what he just.
Wow.
Excellent.
nice.
Love you, Tom. Love
We
you, bro.
miss you.
Miss you,
That
buddy.
is awesome.
Yeah, man. Miss you
Love you,
badly.
Definitely miss you.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Very cool.
Right
Huge
on,
back.
Tommy.
Very cool, man.
Get there.
Yeah,
That's
we
awesome.
sending prayers for Tommy and Analog Kid.
Yep.
And John.
And John.
And John.
John,
Yeah.
who is sick tonight that could not
Feel
be
better,
with
John.
us. Yeah,
Yeah.
John wanted to be here. He did.
Yeah, it's not like him to miss a show.
Get well, guys.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Get
Absolutely.
well.
Definitely.
You guys.
Yeah, so before we scatter out, let's take a moment. And so if anybody wants their very own custom guitar picks made, I know a guy. I got a guy.
I got a guy.
You got the guys.
Legend Picks, Greg at Legend Picks. He's done work for all these fine people and more, and us here at the show.
Tony,
And
Tony, I'm sorry.
sure.
He made all those picks that you just showed. Those were his.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. And there's so much more, but that was just as much as I could squeeze on the screen at once. And for those of you wanting a custom guitar build, I know another guy. That guy right there.
Look at that guitar heaven. Look at it.
Wow.
It's like stages of the moon. Different stages of build.
Right?
The phases of build. There we
It's
go.
the super blood wolf moon.
Nice.
Man.
So Neil, you just have all those bodies, and somebody says, "I want to."
You know, actually, it's a really good question. Every single one of these is pre-sold, so these are all
Wow,
commissioned
that's
already,
fantastic, man.
going
That
to
is
private
awesome.
people. So, yeah.
Number one, Neil, I'm not even the least bit surprised. I kind of knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that, my brother. You build really, really great guitars. Spot on, dude.
Awesome
Great
stuff.
back there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Neil's
that
links
is
are
an awesome
down
back there.
below.
Yeah.
Did
They
Neil get a
are.
haircut? It looks like he got a haircut.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a work in progress right now. When your girl's a hairstylist, I go through it. Like, I'll wake up bleach blonde one day and then have Elvis black hair another day, and I just roll with the punches.
Well, at least you have hair.
By the
Right.
way, thank you,
Yeah.
you guys, both you and your wife. Thank you so much for the truffles. They
Yeah.
were so wonderful.
Yes,
Oh my
they
God.
are.
My wife keeps asking, does she make those for sale all the time? I'm like, I'll ask them because she wants more.
Yeah.
She wants more. We're going to be placing some orders.
Alrighty. That's awesome. I'm glad you guys like them. Then we'll have to incorporate a card for her in her business too.
Oh, they're amazing.
Those are good.
They
Hit
are.
me up. I'll make her a card. Hell yeah.
Yeah, man.
And by the way, Neil, next time I get you in front of me, live or not, we're going to talk about your book. I have some thoughts. I've got a couple of thoughts, bro.
Yeah.
Great book, my man. Great book.
Yeah,
It's
well,
never
since we're on the subject and we do have Steve on the show, I'm just going to point out that I am one of those guys that self-published my book because I couldn't get somebody to publish it. So,
Oh well. What's
I am
what's
one
your
of those
book?
guys that
What's your book,
you know
Neil?
what? And I have no embarrassment, no shame in it. That's
It's
not a
right
book
here.
that I would have. If I was a publisher, I wouldn't have done it either.
That's it.
Omnibus Prime.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ricky even started reading it. So now we take
Excellent.
turns.
Excellent.
But
Excellent.
yeah, it goes with
Yeah.
me everywhere.
Great book.
It is. It's
It
funny.
is. Yeah.
He's got
Neil's
some good points, though.
Neil's links are down below, and he will accommodate you. Absolutely.
So Neil, if I buy a book, you toss in a guitar.
If you buy a book from me, I toss in one of Tony's picks. That's it. How about that? How about that?
There you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
There they are.
Now, but if you buy a guitar from me, I'll toss in a book. How about that?
That's a good deal.
That is a good
that's
deal.
really good.
That's a good
It
deal.
is.
Yeah. And for those of you that like the cigar box guitars, look
Yes.
at these
Totally
sexy
custom.
rascals. Oh
Nice.
my
One of a
God.
kind.
Yeah,
So cool.
Brendan B.
So cool.
Squared. He makes those things. And his links are down below.
They're fun.
They
Check out
are.
all our friends' links. In the
Awesome.
description.
Yeah, that guy right there.
It was
Well,
him.
Cheeks.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'll send Steve a butt holder, a pick holder, if Steve wants one. I sent them to everybody, Steve, because the whole thing with the whole thing with the butt cheeks thing. I don't know if you know the
We did.
story, but
We all have one.
but Jay Hannon, that's on Johnny Bean show, and we've been friends for like 20 plus years. We used to work together. I still work at IBM / whatever it is now, and he used to work there. And him and another guy used to call me Butt Cheeks, Brendan Butt Cheeks. I don't know why, but it stuck. And then, it kind of morphed into a bunch of weird stuff. So I have a 3D printer because I was printing some stuff for cigar box guitars. I print the nuts and stuff. It's pretty cool. Then I came across this and I was like, oh, it's Butt Cheeks. I have to make some of these. So actually I was putting some pics in there, storing pics. So I sent them to pretty much everybody on the show here.
Yep.
And I have my own, custom pick made, and of course on the back I put Brendan butt cheeks on there, and there's a
Yep.
picture of butt cheeks. So
Excellent. Excellent.
it's got a
Very
mind of its
nice.
own. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of an inside joke, but now too many people know about it, so I'll never live that down. So, but yeah,
You know,
it's fun.
Brendan, I don't know if I ever told you this, but and keep trying to keep this as profound as possible.
Yes,
your butt cheeks pick is my predominant base pick.
Excellent.
Nice.
Excellent.
I thought that
Nice.
kind of went hand in hand.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's all about the bass, man.
It's
All about that bass. Yep, absolutely.
All right. So, and also before we get gone, well, all right, I've found it. All right. So last week on the show, we did something a little different. We had Chris Gill and we did a live interactive listening party, and we listened to Fair Warning
That was cool.
with you
That was
guys in
fun.
the
That
chat,
was a lot of fun, man. I
and
enjoyed
we
it.
are going to do that
Really cool.
again next week.
Yeah.
Cool.
Where we are going to be diving down on. All right, kids, you ready for this? We're
Ready for
diving down on Diver Down
There you go.
Oh, this was going to be fun.
with
Listen to it
Greg.
with Greg,
Yeah.
yeah. Nice.
And we
That'll be
will listen to Diver Down
Nice.
with you guys
Yeah.
from start to finish,
You got to show up though.
and we will pick
Nice.
apart
Yeah.
Diver Down.
Excellent.
Very cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Can't wait for this.
another way to involve the audience with this audio that you duck and dodge around copyright issues on YouTube and can only do so much. So we're trying to do a little more.
We're getting
Yep.
around it. We're
Yeah.
sticking it to YouTube.
So yeah, and there'll be more of that to come with diving down on episodes where we have interactive listening parties. Yeah, I love the concept.
Yes.
John's idea. Miss you, John. Get well,
Yeah.
buddy.
You well, brother.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So, Steve, this has been such a treat. It's so nice to see you again, sir.
Freaking love you, man.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
And
We love you, Steve.
there is your book,
Thank you, Sandra.
and there's
Stop
your
doubting
information.
yourself.
Yeah.
Just stop doubting yourself.
Information is also in the description of this show.
Yep. Go order this book, or I'm gonna hack your Pinterest accounts.
My God, I'm so excited for this book. Oh my
But yeah,
God.
this is
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. And we're
This
excited
is
to have
the one
Steve
you
back.
want.
So, yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
True pleasure. We're honored.
You rock,
Pleasure.
Steve. You rock, bro.
Yeah. All right. Kids, let's see where we are.
Roll that.
154, just under 2. Yeah. All right. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. Neil Daly, Charles Green, Sandra, Brendan B. Squared. Steve, always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ladies and
Thanks,
gentlemen,
guys.
Steve Rosen,
Thank you, Steve.
the one and only.
So much.
I can't whistle.
There's
like
your info. Get yours. All right. And we are
that.
gonna.
That's weird. Steve doesn't have that guitar in his hands.
I know.
Come
I knew
on
something
now.
was
Last time I
missing.
did, I got in trouble.
I knew something
Last time you
was-
kicked me off the show.
Oh no,
Oh,
no.
never happened.
I don't have to get kicked in the head twice.
Oh.
Excellent.
Oh.
Very cool.
Da-da-da.
Yeah, exactly.
All
Thanks
right.
for tuning in. You guys are always the best. We have the best chat on YouTube right
Yep.
here.
Yes,
every
Be
we
well,
do.
you guys. Be well.
Yeah. Steve, thank you, sir. Nice to see you. We'll see
Thanks, guys.
everybody back here next week, diving down on Diver Down with Greg Renoff. For Sandra, me, Neil, Charles, Brendan, Tom Analog,
Miss you guys. Get well.
John Conklin, he's going to take us home. We'll see you next Wednesday. Have a good one.
Bye, everybody.
Rock
See you
on,
guys.
See
Be
ya.
well.
Any last words there, Charles Green?
Hey, just don't forget, no matter whether you go north, south, east, or west, here in Halenville, every road leads straight to Van Halen. You guys be well. Rock on. Holly, I love this mug. This thing's awesome. Check that out. Have a
Cool.
great week, you guys. Be well.